Welcome to the Dan Casper Show podcast, your chance to catch the full show anytime, anywhere. If you missed it live on the radio, no worries. We've got you covered with all the sports talk, opinions, interviews, and conversations from the show. From the Packers to the Brewers to the biggest stories in sports and around Wisconsin, it's all right here. This is the Dan Casper Show podcast. All right, here we go. The third hour, third quarter kicks off right now. Thanks for hanging out with us this morning. Made it halfway through already. Hopefully you had a fantastic weekend and you're ready to hit up a brand new work week here, the week leading into a Memorial Day weekend. Maybe able to take advantage of some of the nice weather that we had, especially on Saturday and such. But we've got Brewers, Cubs starting tonight. Brewers picking up a series win against our friends just across the border against the Twins. It was a close series in each of those games. But the Brewers' lone loss coming yesterday in a 5-4 loss. Got to see Coleman Crowe pitch again Friday. Robert Gasser getting the start yesterday for the Crew. Brewers utilizing their young depth at that starting pitching spot to fill in some holes, while Brandon Woodruff still makes his recovery and his return. Coming up for this series for the Cubbies, we're going to see Brandon Sproat get the start for the Brewers tonight, Jacob Mizorowski tomorrow, and then Kyle Harrison gets the series finale start on Wednesday. Looking a little bit ahead, not too far, but looking a little bit ahead to the Brewers schedule. This is a big week, right? This is a huge week in terms of competition. Can we call it, is it too early? And when we say whenever I throw this question out there, it probably means, yeah, it is too early. But I was almost going to say, is it prove it week for the Brewers? I feel like that's a little too early. You got Cubs, and then you return home to face the Dodgers. You're talking about probably what a lot of the experts are out there saying the two best teams in the National League at this point. Cubs, Dodgers. Will Miz start one with the Dodgers? So if he starts Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, he could start that series finale on Sunday. Ooh, that'd be something. That'd be a good one. No doubt, I think. Or he starts game one of the Cardinals on Memorial Day Monday, too. But, yeah, this is a big-time week here. Big-time early week for the Brewers. Because we're talking about records, too, against teams who are over 500. And you look at the Brewers, and according to MLB.com right now, the Brewers are 12-5 against teams who have a 500 or better record. And the Brewers are coming off of, sweep of the Yankees, near sweep of the Padres. They won that series. Twins, all right, Twins not to the level, not trying to upset you Twins fans, but not to the level of the Yankees and such. But, I mean, you look at the Twins, they're 21-26. Okay, they're not, like the Angels or anything like, or Rockies. Angels are actually worse, but this is an early test, an early big test here for the Crew. Can they ride that momentum and maybe pick up a series win against the Cubs, pick up a series victory against the Dodgers? Hey, they swept the Dodgers in the regular season last year, but that didn't matter because then the Dodgers took care of business in the postseason, for crying out loud. But let's see what this Brewers team, what they're made of. Let's see what they have. This is a good week. This is a good telling week. Maybe a good first indication of what this Brewers team can be like. It's tough, but you got to find out at some point. So embrace it. Let's embrace this week here. Take a game-by-game approach. So just focus on tonight's game. Worry about tomorrow. Don't look ahead. Can't look ahead against the Dodgers. You got the Cubs, for crying out loud. Brandon Sproat getting the start. And this is a big moment for Brandon Sproat. He's probably on that line. Whenever Brandon Woodruff comes back, Sproat is probably the guy that's on the line that maybe he loses his starting spot. Because I still feel like Logan Henderson deserves to stay in the starting rotation. And I think a big key for tonight's game, one of the biggest keys for tonight's game, is going to be how does Brandon Sproat handle the pressure, handle the environment at Wrigley Field. Nerves are going to be there. You know, across from him or on the other side is Imanaga. Veteran, been there before, done that before, pitched against the Brewers many times. How does Sproat handle the anxiety, handle the nerves? How does he limit some mistakes? How does he limit his walks? No free passes. No free pass. And if you're looking at some of the things from Sproat, he's coming off of a game against the Padres where he picked up his first win, did issue a couple walks. Game prior against the Cardinals, 3 walks. Prior to that, 2 walks. 4 innings, 5 innings. Limit the walks. Limit the mistakes. Don't issue multiple free passes to this offensive lineup of the Chicago Cubs. Starts there. And if the offense can give him some early run support to maybe kind of relax a little bit so he's not so tense, all right. Let's go about it then. So, again, first pitch tonight, 6:40. Coverage will begin on your radio dials, 105.1 FM, 790 AM, 35 minutes prior. I want to go back to Chad Patrick from this past weekend. Chad Patrick, he was awesome on Saturday. Let's give that guy some, and I think he is proving more and more that maybe he is just better out of the pen. Maybe he's just a better pitcher coming out of the bullpen, giving your team a couple innings, or in the case of Saturday, 4 innings. 4 innings, 1 hit, 3 walks, or 3 Ks, no walks to pick up his first career save in a 2-1 game. They had Uribe warming up in the pen for that 9th, but they went to Chad Patrick. A lot of teams might just go with their closer in that situation, but they kept with Patrick. And you look at what he has done in his last couple games coming out of the pen. His last 3 games, okay, against the Yankees, back on the 9th. He went 3 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. He pitched an inning against the Padres. No earned runs, no hits, 1 strikeout. And then this game against the Twins. 4 innings, 1 hit, no earned runs, 3 strikeouts. Dude just seems to be maybe a little bit more comfortable coming out of the pen. And I'm sure he wants to remain a starter. And odds are he's probably going to get some more starts in his career. But he sure seems to be carving out a really nice role as this high leverage guy coming out of the pen, a guy that you're comfortable in a 2-1 game to let him pitch 4 innings and close that thing out. We saw it in the postseason last year, and we're seeing it in the last couple weeks here too. I don't know what the future is going to hold for Chad Patrick in terms of his future starting prospects, whether he could be a full-time starter in that, but right now with this team, with this current team, he seems to be better suited coming out of the pen and giving you a few innings. High leverage innings too. Like, this is a guy, you throw in an Aaron Ashby, you throw in a DL Hall now. You got guys that you could throw in some tight situations, and maybe you want to continue to roll with them for an extra inning or 2 without having to tax your bullpen. It's a huge bonus for this team to have that ability. You know, it gets talked a lot about Aaron Ashby has pitched in a lot of games so far this year. He has. But he's not a normal bullpen pitcher, right? Where, okay, he throws today, you may have to sit him the next day or 2, depending on how long it goes. You know, remember the Josh Hader? You know, if Josh Hader pitched 2 innings, well, you probably have to sit him an extra day. I don't feel like that's the case for guys with Chad Patrick and Aaron Ashby and D.L. Hall because they've got a little bit of starting experience. They got a little bit of length to them. They've been stretched out before. To have that versatility and have that ability, I think, is going to be a huge bonus. And right now, with Quinn Priester, he had a starts with the Timber Rattlers past week. At first inning was okay, but then it kind of fell off the rails again in the second inning. I think it's becoming, I know it's a little bit past halfway mark in May, but you kind of wonder, maybe we're not going to see Quinn Priester this year. It's almost like a Corbin Burns-esque second year type of thing where, remember Corbin Burns' second year, he was not good at all. I think he finished the season just in the pitching lab because he was even sticking it up in AAA. But he bounced back nicely. But, we'll take a quick break. Talk some more baseball. We've got what are you talking about there, Surveyor? Well, we got a couple texts to get to here. So we'll talk some more baseball. All right, hit us up, 715-830-1912 on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line. We've got a few texts on the Section 105 chat room as well. So quick break. We'll be back for these few words. Summer is here, and that means it is time to get outdoors, to make some memories, and to be ready for whatever the season brings. That's where Tilden Gun comes in. Whether you're gearing up for target practice or heading to the range or preparing for your next outdoor adventure, Tilden Gun has the selection and expertise to get you set up right. From firearms and ammunition to accessories and safety gear, they've got everything that you need, all backed by knowledgeable service that you can trust. At Tilden Gun, it's not just about what you buy. It's about making sure that you feel confident, informed, and ready every single time that you head on out. So this summer, don't just enjoy the outdoors. Be prepared for it. Stop by Tilden Gun today and see why they are a trusted name for shooters and outdoor enthusiasts alike. As we approach the bottom of the hour here, let's catch up on a few messages. We've got Travis saying definitely pumped up for this series against the Cubbies. As you mentioned, it's the first time since these two teams have faced since the postseason, expecting a very animated series. We've got Dave saying big week for the Crew. Obviously, it doesn't determine what they'll be like when it comes to the postseason, but nonetheless, you have a chance to take down the Cubs and the Dodgers. It is a big week no matter the time of the season. We've got Patrick also chiming in, saying, looking forward to this week. It'll be a tough test for the Brewers going up against the Cubs and the Dodgers, but we'll see how their pitching can carry them, because I think this is what I think might be a little talk to text here, but it says, I think the pitching has got to be the group that carries the Brewers to victory in these series. Another text, we've got Alex saying, not feeling too confident about the Brewers going up against both the Cubs and Dodgers this week. I hope I'm wrong. I'll definitely be cheering for both of them, but I think it's going to be a tough test for the Brewers offense to go up against these two offenses. Maybe they can perform like they did against the Yankees. Another texter saying, I know it's May, but it's hard not to get excited about some big series in the middle of May. We've got Cubs and Dodgers this week. Can't ask for a better week in terms of competition between these two teams. So keep your texts coming. You can send them on over on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line or hang out in the Section 105 chat room. So, well, a couple people are chiming in about Mizorowski. So I'm going to save those for when we get to it. Take it one game at a time. We got Brandon Sproat on here. There was another minute. Where'd it go? Okay, here he is. Bill says with Brandon Sproat, I'm a little nervous with the Brandon Sproat start tonight against the Cubbies. I wonder if he can handle the big moment. It kind of has given me flashbacks to Quinn Priester's start against the Cubs at Wrigley Field last year. Hope I'm wrong, and hope the kid goes out there and pitches a gem and helps lead the Brewers to victory. So, yeah, I think, he's probably, again, the guy that's maybe on that thin line whenever Brandon Woodruff comes back, right? Whenever he comes back, you'll look at the starting five. Miz, Kyle Harrison. I think Logan Henderson deserves a spot in there. You throw Brandon Woodruff. Oh, maybe, maybe Sprout still stays in there because just depending on that, I think Robert Gasser's probably going to be sent back down. I don't think they'll keep Coleman Crow up. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, not a bad outing again from him on Friday. I know he got a little trouble there towards the end, but I don't know. They got depth. We'll see how it plays out. John says over under 5 times. Over under 5 on how many Green Bay sucks chance we will get in this series in Chicago. I'll go under. I'll play the under. Let's do 4.5. Okay, you always got to do the half. Let's do 4.5. I'm gonna go with the under. Think you might just see more Milwaukee ones, but hey, maybe Milwaukee fans, Wisconsin fans can be a little bit louder in that series. Sounded like I know a few of you were over at the Twin Series, but it sounded like just from listening / watching the game, it seemed like a good loud contingent of Brewers fans just across the border at Target Field. Brand's mom says, morning all, best of the weekend. Luke Combs at Lambeau. Worse, going to the Brewers Sunday, and they lost. Maybe you need to stop going to games, Brand's mom, because it feels like every time you've gone to a game, they lose. The bus trip earlier, now this one. Crying out loud. Best of the weekend goes to, this is from Jim, best of the weekend goes to the Brewers, taking 2 out of 3 against the Twinnies. Worst of the weekend, Brewers not sweeping the Twins. Another one here, best of the weekend goes to Chad Patrick. Worst of the weekend, Timberwolves falling to the Spurs. That comes from Garrett on our text line. So, all right, yeah, we'll get back to some more Brewers talk coming up here in just a little bit. Switching gears, we were talking a little football a little earlier on. I know we've got Aaron Rodgers is like the talk now because he's back. He's back with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so everybody's freaking out about it on social media and such, and they open up OTAs today. So I'm not sure if Rodgers is going to speak to the media on that, but regardless, we'll see how that kind of all plays out. But a few of you said that you are cheering for the Steelers because of Rodgers and McCarthy back together. If it doesn't affect the Packers, we had Matt a little bit earlier. Always Packers, always will be at number 1. But I do have a soft spot for the Steelers because of so many Packers connections. If the Packers are not in the Super Bowl, I wouldn't mind seeing the Steelers make a run and Rodgers winning one more before he calls it a career. Dave has texted in too saying, or did text in a little bit earlier saying, definitely if I had to pick a second team, it probably would be the Steelers. I think Mike McCarthy has gotten so much flack over the years from Packers fans. I'd like to see him get another ring, although he probably still wouldn't get any credit. And I think if Rodgers gets another ring, it would have the Peyton Manning effect where he moves up another notch in the all-time status. We've got John says, I took my son to the Brewers game yesterday, and the Brewers fans were loud. Yeah, it seemed like could definitely tell on that telecast. So, mad respect. We've got, Brandon Woodruff, surveyor wants to know when is Brandon Woodruff coming back? I think the latest, he's doing another, so he did a bullpen session on the 15th. Let me see if I can find something. I think he was going to do another one. So, yeah, Brewers, this was on the 15th. He reportedly felt good after throwing a 25-pitch bullpen session on Thursday. Woodruff will throw another bullpen session on Monday, which obviously today. Afterwards, he'll likely throw a simulated game before possibly joining the Brewers rotation. Unclear yet if he's going to be on a minor league rehab assignment. So today is going to be another big day according to the latest updates and rumors about Brandon Woodruff. Hopefully everything checks out. But all right, we got to take another quick break. Back with plenty more Coming up in just a couple minutes. There's always something going on at the VFW Post 305, like live music happy hours on the patio every summer Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m., weather permitting. Bring your camera, take in the view, watch their resident raptors hunt and fish, and grab a drink and enjoy some great live music performed by some talented local musicians. VFW Post 305 will be featuring food and drink specials. And, of course, your four-legged friends are always welcome, too. So that's going to be every Saturday during the summer at VFW Post 305. And put this on the calendar. It's a little over a month away, but in case you're thinking about it, planning for it ahead of time, they will have their special Father's Day buffet going on Sunday, June 21st from 7 a.m. to noon. So we'll keep you posted on we'll keep you posted on that, or keep you updated on that, to remind you as we get a little bit closer and closer to Father's Day. But, yeah, there's always something going on at the VFW Post 305, located on 1300 Star Avenue in Eau Claire. Surveyor says, random subject, but how does the world not know who Rogers is married to by now? We have images of top-secret military installations across the world, videos of giant squid, and even photos of C-Bomb trying to be athletic, but not one of Rogers with his sweetie. Come on, Internet, do your job. We need to know who he settled with after Olivia Munn, Danica Patrick, and that other one. I thought I'd seen a few months ago or a couple months ago, and I didn't listen to it, but there was like a podcast that thought they figured it out, and that, I don't know. Hey, they're keeping it under wraps. I don't know, dude. Couldn't tell you. And I'll be honest, I haven't thought about it that much, to be real. But, yeah. Why don't you figure it out, Surveyor? Go do some internet sleuthing and figure it out, dude. Go out there and try to figure it out. Speaking of Packers, over the weekend, it was announced, I think the Packers announced on Saturday, but it happened on Friday. Sherman Lewis passed away. So if you know Sherman Lewis, offensive coordinator for the Super Bowl 31 championship Packers team. And Sherman Lewis was a long-time NFL assistant coach. He got his start in the NFL as the running backs coach with the 49ers in the early 80s up until 1990. Then he coached the receivers in 91 for the 49ers, but followed Mike Holmgren over to Green Bay and became the offensive coordinator from 1992 to 1999. Then he was the Vikings offensive coordinator from 2000 to 2001. Then he became the Detroit Lions offensive coordinator from 03 to 04. So very, very experienced within the NFC North. Then he wrapped up his NFL career in 2009 with Washington as an offensive consultant. So, but he never, with his success, especially, you look at those Packers teams, right, in the mid-'90s under Mike Holmgren. We talk about that coaching tree of Mike Holmgren. And you look at all those assistants that got head coaching jobs. Sherman Lewis never got a head coaching job. He had Andy Reid that ended up getting a head coaching job. Obviously, John Gruden went on to get a head coaching job after following Andy Reid to Philly and such. Dick Duran got a coaching job. Ray Rhodes got a head coaching job. And he never even got an interview during that 96 season. And when he was asked about his career in 2015, I was reading this a little bit earlier. He said, we won Super Bowls in San Francisco and Green Bay, and I got to work with some great coaches and players. No question, I wish I had the chance to be a head coach. But looking back, I did all I could. I was disappointed, but I'm not going to hang my hat on that. I had a great career and was fortunate to coach in the NFL. But you look at, and yeah, he never, even with the rise of that offense, and you look at where he was a position coach with the 49ers with that offense and then goes to Green Bay. I know he didn't call plays, but still, never really got that head coaching shot when you look at that coaching tree. And let me look up. I want to see. Fritz Shermer was kind of the same way. Now, Fritz Shermer, I know, was a little bit older. I mean, his last stop was with Green Bay. Then he had some health issues, I think, when he went to Seattle to follow Mike Holmgren over there. Yeah, when he accepted dual roles, Shermer went with him as defense coordinator. That May he was diagnosed with cancer, and he passed away at his Wisconsin home in late August before ever coaching a game with the Seahawks. But, you know, he was a longtime defensive coordinator, Patriots, Rams, the Cardinals, and then came over to Green Bay. So was a head coach with Wyoming at the college level. But, yeah, Sherman Lewis. You think about that 90s coaching staff. We think about those 90s Packers, and we think a lot about, you know, Reggie White, Brett Favre. We think about the Big Five: Reggie White, Brett Favre, Mike Holmgren, Ron Wolf, Bob Harlan. But that you all know what picture I'm talking about with Mike Holmgren's coaching tree, right? I think they're on the stairs of Holmgren's house, and you just look at it, and you can point to all these. Yeah, here we go. I got the picture up now. Let me make it a little bit bigger. John Gruden, Steve Mariucci. I forgot about Mooch. Yeah, John Gruden, Steve Mariucci, Ray Rhodes, Andy Reid, Dick Duran, all coached under Holmgren, all went on to be future head coaches. And there's Sherman Lewis right next to Mike Holmgren, too, but never got that shot. And I don't know. I'm trying to think what's the why maybe he wasn't thought of as a replacement potentially for Holmgren, and, you know, Ron Wolf went with the Ray Rhodes approach, hired him, and we all know how that one went, but he passed away at the age of 83 on Friday. So got a couple more Packers notes here, or football notes, I should say. Definitely cheering on the Pittsburgh Steelers if it doesn't interfere with the Packers winning a Super Bowl, says Ben on our texting line. I'm still a fan of Aaron Rodgers and wish he could have one more Super Bowl, because I think he will be looked upon even better in NFL history, kind of like Peyton Manning. So a few of you have mentioned the Peyton Manning example of just getting one more, and I think for quarterbacks, you know, for a lot of them, after they get one, and maybe a little bit earlier on in their careers, it's almost like now the minimum is 2. I feel like the minimum is 2 for a lot of these. You know, when Peyton got 2, and maybe that was because Eli had 2, but when Peyton got 2, it's like, okay, now he just kind of moves up, even though he wasn't in his prime, obviously, and retired after that Super Bowl. It felt like he just needs 2. And I don't know if that was because of the Eli getting 2, or, you know, you had the Tom Brady era where he had multiple. Now you have Patrick Mahomes that has multiple Super Bowl championships. It feels like the minimum for great quarterbacks is 2 Super Bowls. Is that the new line? You know, Dan Marino obviously never got 1. Favre only got 1. Rodgers only has 1. Drew Brees only had 1. But if you're an all-time great quarterback, one of the best of all time, top 10, top 15, whatever, should the minimum for Super Bowl championships be considered 2? Because that puts you in the other stratosphere. And maybe it's because you look at a lot of teams or a lot of quarterbacks that have 1 ring. Trent Dilfer, Joe Flacco. You know, not trying to pick on those guys, but are they Hall of Famers? Are in the same categories of an Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre? No. So has it just kind of naturally evolved where these quarterbacks, where these all-time great quarterbacks, the goal is at least 2. So you could say you have won multiple Super Bowls. Has the likes of Brady and Mahomes just kind of ruined it for a lot of these other quarterbacks, where that bar has gotten bigger, has really elevated. I mean, you think about the quarterbacks that have won multiple Super Bowls. It's Terry Bradshaw. It's Troy Aikman. Young won one as a starter, but he's got multiple. Obviously, Brady, Mahomes. Starr's got 2 of them. More championships, but he's got a couple of them. A couple of Super Bowl titles. 5 total championships. I don't know. I feel like for GOAT quarterbacks, for best of all time, you almost want, or it almost feels like they need at least 2. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll wrap up the third hour coming up after these few words. Dings, dents, or something more serious? Don't stress about it. Just head to Superior Auto Body. From minor touch-ups to major collision repair, they are your go-to team for getting your vehicle back to looking like new. With experienced technicians and attention to every detail, Superior Auto Body takes pride in doing the job right the first time. So when life happens to your vehicle, trust the team that Eau Claire drivers rely on. That's Superior Auto Body, your go-to place for all of your auto body needs. Coming up next hour, we'll do some local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. We got some of the brackets out for high school softball, so take a look at that. We'll do a little Glory Days coming up in the next hour or two, brought to you by Summer Jam in Eau Claire. We'll get back to more Brewers Cubs talk as we get set for this series matchup beginning tonight. First pitch 6:40. Brandon Sproats will be on the mound for the Crew tonight. We get Jacob Mizorowski tomorrow, and then Kyle Anderson getting the series finale on Wednesday, and then the Brewers will be back at home taking on the Dodgers for Memorial Day weekend. So NBA playoff and Stanley Cup playoff wise, we know the Timberwolves fell on Friday, so their season is over with. We've got game 1 between the Spurs and Thunder tonight in the Western Conference Finals. This should be a good series between these two. But OKC favored by 6.5 in tonight's game. You got SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, winning the MVP back-to-back years. So, and then Tuesday with Cleveland picking up a victory last night in Game 7 against Detroit. It'll be Cleveland taking on the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Stanley Cup-wise, we got a Game 7 tonight. Not a lot of things better in sports than a Game 7 or do-or-die situation, sudden death in a game. And we got Montreal at Buffalo, Game 7. The winner will be taking on Carolina. Carolina's still waiting to take on to see who they're going to be playing. That game will be on Thursday. But then Wednesday, we've got Game 1 in the Western Final between Vegas and Colorado. So that's kind of where everything is standing in terms of the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs. So kind of starting to wind down a little bit. Back to a little hoops. I just kind of want to get your gauge. I know we touched on it a little bit on Friday, but you know, with Miles Turner kind of talking about in a podcast recently, you know, the lack of maybe accountability from Doc Rivers and maybe players like Giannis, he kind of mentioned by name, taking advantage of it, being late in that to the plane. And, you know, he even kind of said to Giannis, hey, dude, you know, take advantage of it. Does that kind of give you a lesser thought, maybe a little bit of a lesser opinion on Giannis as we head into, well, maybe the final month or so of wondering of what's going to happen with Giannis and the Bucks? It kind of does for me a little bit because of all the things that he kept talking about during the season about the team and accountability and just playing together, playing as a team. It does. It kind of comes off as a little bit hypocritical. A little bit. I mean, and maybe it's not 100% true from what Miles Turner said, but I feel like there's at least a little bit of an element to that. Otherwise, why go out there and publicly say that? I feel like there's got to be some truth to it. So even if it's just a little bit, it doesn't paint the greatest picture. Now, I know there's a lot of, well, at least over the weekend, there was a ESPN piece on Giannis where some sources were saying that the Bucks are done with the circus that is Giannis. Here's some of the quotes. This was a piece from ESPN that NBA offseason intel predictions for summer of LeBron, Giannis, and more stars. And what they had to say about Giannis in the wake of Bucks co-owner Jimmy Haslam's comments at Coach Taylor Jenkins' introductory news conference earlier this month, it seems like the Giannis saga could finally get some clarity between now and the draft. And after years of will they, won't they, the growing belief around the league is that this time Giannis trade will actually happen. Quote, it just feels like they are done with the circus more than anything, end quote, an East executive said. They seem to want a clean break and to move on. So the other part on here, it says Haslam's timeline makes sense. The plan for Milwaukee needs to be either to go into the summer rebuilding the roster in the wake of a Giannis trade or to once again try to improve around its star forward if it does choose to keep him, as the belief is he will sign an extension if he's on the Bucks when he's eligible October 1st. Another sign to consider is how impending draft lottery reform will affect Giannis and other trade sagas, which is kind of an interesting point that maybe isn't being talked a whole lot about. But it says here, the belief among teams is that the NBA will approve a 3-2-1 lottery system later this month, which will give as many as 18 teams a realistic chance of winning the number one pick, with much more randomness throughout the system. It's still unclear how that will impact star player trades, such as a potential Giannis deal, but it is another wrinkle. So I don't know if this would potentially be something that the Bucks would wait to see how that plays out, or if that's not that much of a factor. I kind of feel if you're going to trade him, you're going to trade him, and I don't know if that's going to be a determining factor or not. Another quote from a East executive is, if someone can get Giannis, they might win the offseason. For all the distractions and injuries over the last few years, he remains a top 5 player in his prime, and those guys are not available often. That's why this matters so much. So, the other Eastern Conference quote. One hand, it could be true, where the Bucks are done with the circus. They're done with all that. The other hand, it could be, hey, it's an Eastern Conference anonymous executive trying to lower the price for Giannis, trying to throw it in there. We've seen it before in other sports. You kind of throw out a narrative. You throw out a quote to a journalist, a writer, a media person, and maybe that draws the price tag down a little bit. You know, when you say so-and-so, oh man, drama, circus around him, that's probably going to lower the price tag a little, or that's the hope, that it will lower the price tag in terms of trade compensation. So that could be something that maybe this executive wanted to do, or maybe it's true. Who the heck knows? It's all a part of the game. All a part of this back and forth. Ultimately, we'll just see what happens next month when the draft. If the draft comes and he's still there, I feel like, all right, extension probably will be coming soon. All right, shot clock's going to cut us off. We're heading into the final hour. We'll do some local sports roundup brought to you by Carpet City Flooring Center. Talk a little softball, playoff softball. We've got baseball going on too. So we'll recap it all. Justice Cleveland will be joining us from WEAU 13 News to break it all down. Get back to some more Brewers talk as we get set for this series going up against the Chicago Cubs. Send me your predictions. Who wins the series? How many games? Brewers win in 2, Brewers sweep, Cubs win in 2, Cubs sweep.